Hey there. Today, my little brother and I are diving into an experiment on memory span, which is often known as the magic number or the crow digit test. Essentially, we're going to see how many items we can keep track of in our short term memory. But first, let's talk about why the magic number is called the crow. The term crow comes from the fact that in the 50s, a big university in the East conducted a similar experiment, but on crows. The experiment conducted revealed that crows could only handle a maximum of three objects in their mind at any given time, as when four students entered a tent but three left, the crows still believed that there were no more students left in the tent, even though there was a student still in there. Now, enter George Miller, a renowned psychologist. In 1956, he published an article titled The Magical Number 7, plus or minus 2. In his research, Miller proposed that the average limit of items an individual can hold in their memory is around 7, give or take 2. Miller's research essentially explored our cognitive abilities, specifically our memory span. He noticed an intriguing connection between one dimensional absolute judgment and short term memory, which we'll explore now. So, in a one dimensional absolute judgment task, you respond to stimuli based on a learned response. And in this, Miller found that the performance is nearly perfect, up to 5 or 6 stimuli. However, there is a general decline as the number of stimuli increases. By our intuition, this is to be expected. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Miller then tried to characterize the information contained in these inputs as bits, which is calculated by the number of binary decisions required to arrive at the selected stimulus, and the same holds for the response. Now, moving on to a different part of the article. Miller defined memory span as the longest list of items a person can repeat back correctly immediately after presentation. He observed that the memory span of young adults is around 7 items, give or take 2, which is where the title of the article comes from. However, with this, he also realized that the person's memory limit comes not from bits, but from chunks. Miller defined chunk as the largest meaningful unit in a presented material that a person recognizes. Essentially, it depends on what you know. For example, a word may be one chunk for a native speaker, but for someone else unfamiliar with the language, it may be something longer than one chunk, maybe 2 or 3. Now, about the magical number 7. Miller used this term rhetorically. He later realized that there's nothing inherently magical about the number 7. Specifically, he realized that the correspondence between the limits of one dimensional absolute judgment and of short term memory span was only a coincidence. It's more of a heuristic, which essentially tells us that the longer a list of items gets, the harder it becomes to memorize and recall after presentation. Now, moving on from Miller's research, let's try to see what my crow value is. Essentially, this value measures how many items I can hold in my short term memory at any given time. We'll start by having a one digit number, and gradually we'll increase the number of digits until we get to 12 digits. I'll have my little brother read each digit to me, and I'll try to recall them in order directly after he reads them to me. Here's my little brother, and
Hi.
yeah. So let's get started with the test. I wrote some Python script to generate some random numbers, and my brother's going to be reading to them, starting from one digit and then all the way up to 12, as we explained. So let's get started. So I'm going to close my eyes, and
Okay.
then
2,
2,
3, 8,
3, 8,
7, 7, 2,
7, 7, 2,
1, 7, 6, 4,
1, 7, 6, 4,
5, 9, 8, 5, 5,
5, 9, 8, 5, 5,
9, 3, 9, 2, 3, 3,
9, 3, 9, 2, 3, 3,
8, 9, 8, 9, 6, 3, 9,
8, 9, 8, 9, 6, 3, 9,
3, 7, 2, 7, 1, 5, 8, 9.
3, 7, 2, 7, 7, 1, 9. Well, clearly I messed up there on the 7th digit, or on the 8th digit, right? I
Yeah.
messed up. So I could only recall up to 7 digits, which means my crow value in this case is 7. Now, it's going to be my little brother's turn at taking the test, and I'm going to read him the digits. So let's begin our test. So close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay, so number 1. So 2,
2,
8, 5,
8, 5,
455
455
4977
4977
86560.
85650.
That was actually wrong. You got
What
it
was it?
wrong.
What was
It
it?
was 865. You said 856.
Oh.
Oh. All right. So as you can see, my brother was only able to recall accurately us 4 digits. And considering that Miller's research was based on young adults, it can be expected that since my little brother is not a young adult, his score would obviously be lower than mine. Now, me and my brother have both experienced firsthand the constraints of our memory span, or our crow. But here's the exciting part. How can we overcome this limit? Enter concept formation. Concepts are a sort of abstraction that groups things similar based on deterministic characteristics. That is, the one characteristic that tells the most about a given thing, and reduces them to one. By creating concepts, we can effectively work within our memory span and kind of expand our memory span. So, this exactly answers our question from before. One concept can encapsulate a multitude of information, allowing us to navigate within this magical number limit. For example, the term animal encapsulates all the terms cats, dogs, monkeys, elephants, and much, much more that would have been impossible to think of all of them in our heads. Layering even more concepts on top of other concepts allows us to create a conceptual hierarchy, which allows us to truly remember things and organize information based on how they relate to one another. This is because they allow us to comprehend information that otherwise would have been vastly limited by our crow. So, in conclusion, our memory span, the magical number, and the crow digit test all highlight the wonderful intricacies of our minds. By exploring these concepts, we can not only understand our cognitive limits, but how to expand them and how to gain a deeper understanding of the world. And that's it. That's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you gained some value out of the video. Bye.